It is a beautiful day in Austin, Texas, ladies and gentlemen. Excited to dive into some teams, excited to come up with some dynasty trades, and excited to talk about some strategy. But let's go ahead. Let's pull up our first team coming out from Packers #1 fan. Says, took over last season as an orphan in my first year of Dynasty. Probably shouldn't have. Finished as the best seed and lost my first match. The league will transition to Superflex next year. We traded Saquon Tyreek Diggs for Addison Goddard Dobbs, the 105 and 211. Not sure which direction I should take the team now that I failed once at competing. I'll say, my friend, if you finished as the best seed, you didn't really fail at competing. I mean, obviously, you would rather take down the championship. That is the goal every single season. But at the same time, I mean, really, all you can do is try to get to the dance. Once you actually get there, there is so much random variance, of course. But let's go ahead. Let's pull up this exact roster. And this is going to be a league where we're starting 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, a tight end, 2 flexes. Not really going to talk about the IDP. Not really going to talk about the kicker. Obviously, IDP will make a difference if you are looking at a league where you start maybe 7, 8 defensive players. But if you're just starting 1 and it's just a flex option, it doesn't matter in the slightest. Now, starting off with the lineup settings, I will say, as it stands today, extremely shallow format. Here, we don't care about depth. Here, every trade we make, we are trying to send 2 players and get 1 in return. We want to send Jordan Addison and a future first and get back Jamar Chase. Those are the style trades that we are looking to make if you're only starting 2 running backs, 2 receivers, a tight end, and 2 flex spots. Now, of course, if you are adding a super flex, it is going to make it a little bit of a deeper format, where then at that point, you'll be starting 9 offensive players from week to week perspective, but still, it is going to be shallow. We're not too concerned about the depth. Now, going to the quarterback position, we are currently sitting with Jordan Love and Trevor Lawrence. So if you're sitting here in a Superflex league, completely fine with these 2 guys being our quarterbacks, right? I mean, it would be nice to have a QB3. So if you're saying that this will be a Superflex league starting in 2024, I think that pick at 5 is going to be the perfect selection for you to just grab one of the big 3 quarterbacks. We're going to assume that Caleb Williams will already be off the board, but if Jaden Daniels is there, if Drake May's there, and you want to bring in that 3rd quarterback, so we have 2 that we can confidently start from week to week perspective, that'd be great, especially if we're only starting 9 offensive players from week to week perspective. Quarterback's going to make up a massive percentage of our starting lineup output. Now, going over to running back, sitting with Edwards, Demercott. Obviously, we have nobody in the starting lineup of significance. Going down to the bench, we have nobody either. We just traded away Saquon Barkley, as we mentioned previously. So here you would assume that, yeah, this team either has 2 options. 1, we are going to have to trade for a running back at some point this offseason. Obviously, I do not want you to go out there and panic and make that move in February. Or 2, we decide, you know what? And maybe our team is built a little bit more for the long term. Maybe we should be playing for 2025 and beyond. I think that's going to come down to a ton what we have at receiver. And going over to wide receiver, we are sitting here with CeeDee Lamb, Jordan Addison, 2 young wide receivers that obviously are cornerstone assets that we can build around for quite some time. Nico Collins is a very interesting player here in that if you look at what you have in 2024 drafts, Nico Collins literally being drafted at the beginning of round 2 of underdog drafts right now. I mean, people are all in on Nico Collins for 2024. I'm not going to fault them at all when I say that, but I do believe, at least my personal take is, if you're a contending roster, yes, you should be excited about Nico Collins. And yes, we should be looking to build around Nico Collins and using his production for 2024. However, I don't necessarily view him in the same light as you would have with like Jordan Addison, where if we were a contending team, I'm happy with them. But if we were a rebuilding team, I think we probably have to go through and look to move on from him. So keeping that in mind, going down to the bench, we don't really have any other wide receivers of note outside of Hollywood Brown. No idea what situation he'll be in this next season. Going over to tight end, we have Dallas Goedert as well. So it's a very interesting spot where this team, as it stands, is not going to be able to compete for a real title this next season. I mean, Gus Edwards is most likely nothing, and obviously nobody else at the running back position on this roster is. So we have one of two options. We go for the 2025 play where we tear it down, we rebuild, or you go ahead and you make some trades to address the running back position. So when we're trying to make this decision and we're trying to figure out exactly what we should be looking for, I would say that we want to see how could we make trades to solve our running back issue. Our first thing that you want to look at is how many rookie picks do we have this year? Because maybe if we're sitting here with 6 rookie picks at the beginning of round 2 through the beginning of early round 3, then maybe you can say, well, Mason, I'm either going to go ahead, take a couple of these second round picks, trade them for short-term running backs like Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara, or maybe I'm just going to take swings on running backs like Jonathan Brooks and Trey Benson, and hopefully we solve the running back position that way. But we don't have that ammo. We're not able to make those trades with any picks in 2024. If you really wanted to trade that 105 and go out there and get a running back, you could. But I personally would rather hold on to that 105 and select someone that's going to be productive both in the short and long term, like the top 5 prospects this year in Harrison, Neighbors, Daniels, Caleb, and May. I do want to reiterate, just if you're coming in here, while yes, it's a 1 quarterback format for right now, it is transitioning over to Superflex next season, so the quarterbacks are in play. So as it stands, I don't really see an easy path for us to go out there and make too many moves for running backs. Your next option is to go ahead and trade away your 2025 picks for RBs. And that is just something I have no interest in doing, to be completely honest with you. In that, yes, hypothetically, we could go through, we could trade away our 2025 first. We can bring in a running back. Let me go ahead and pull up flockfantasy.com real quick, my friend, and let's see exactly what kind of range of rookie pick we'd be looking at in that instance. If you are looking at that, you're more likely than not, because I would say that if you're trading away 2025 first, people will be pricing it in as if it's a mid to late first. You're more likely than not going to be looking at someone like Rachaad White. And if you're looking at a Rachaad White, there's a chance that, and I'm not saying it's likely, but it is in the range of outcomes that all of a sudden he comes out and he is either disappointing in 2024 or this team decides to add to the running back room. Both are possibilities at the moment, and I just personally wouldn't feel comfortable enough to go through and say, okay, I'm willing to go ahead. I'm willing to plant the flag. I'm going to trade away my 2025 first. I'm going to get Rachaad White, or okay, I'm going to go get James Cook, because if we go through the worst case scenario, what happens if all of a sudden one of those running backs turns out to not be the guy? You still need an RB. You already traded away your 2025 first. So you are left with one of two options. One, you can either try to contend with no running back, or you're right back to the trading block and right back to trade for another running back, because you can't try to rebuild with no 2025 first. If you trade away your 2025 first, rebuilding is out of the picture. So what I would honestly prefer to do is I would probably prefer to sit here and try to pivot to a rebuild, just because I don't think we have the ammo to make trades to try to contend right now. We already have a lot of solid assets for the long term. Jordan Love's a long-term piece. Trevor Lawrence is a long-term piece. Jordan Addison's a long-term piece. CeeDee Lamb's a long-term piece. Our rookie pick 105 is. Really, the only guys that would be seeing what kind of value we could get would maybe be Nico Collins and Dallas Goedert. I know we're not going to get a ton with Dallas Goedert, but let's go ahead and let's pull up the rankings here and let's get a sense of what rookie pick, or about what rookie pick do you have Nico Collins being comped to. So right now in the flockfantasy.com community rankings, these aren't the expert rankings, so keep in mind, these aren't my rankings. This is how the users of the site are ranking these players. You have Nico Collins ranked pretty much in line with the 106. You have Nico Collins ranked well behind the 105, which we have. So if you were to trade away Nico Collins, you are most likely trying to get back the 106 in return, which the 106 can be Roma Dunza. It can be, I don't know, Brock Bowers. So you have an argument to be made from a couple different sides there. Another thing that we could look to do is trade for a younger wide receiver and maybe pick up an additional pick at the same time. So if we're going to go through this, trying to find a younger asset that we like the price point of, I really don't mind this Jayden Reed price here at pick 67. So if we wanted to go through and trade away Nico Collins, let's try to figure something out. Let's pick up the trade calculator. Let's first say we're going to receive Jayden Reed and we are going to give up Nico Collins. What I like is as soon as we put this in, we can go down and the trade finder's right there so we can get a sense of what the gap between these players are. So all the recent trades are saying that you do have Nico Collins as a better asset than Jayden Reed. Someone traded a first-round pick with Jayden Reed to get Nico Collins. Someone traded away a second-round pick with Jayden Reed to get Nico Collins. Someone traded away DeAndre Swift with Jayden Reed to get Nico Collins. So what I personally would be looking at if we decided to try to pivot over to a rebuild is I probably would be looking at trying to add in a late first. It says we are winning that deal. Maybe we end up having to throw in a little bit of a sweetener if we try to trade away Nico for Reed and a future first. But nonetheless, considering this roster with how it stands right now, I think that's a move that we would look to make. Let's try to figure out exactly where you have Dallas Goedert ranked among picks. And this is what I love of what we have set up with flockfantasy.com right now. You can literally see where every player is ranked relative to picks, both in expert rankings as well as community rankings. Community rankings completely free. Expert rankings obviously behind a paywall. But let's go ahead and let's just look at the community rankings here. So Dallas Goedert, extremely low. You are looking at Dallas Goedert right in line with a 2024 mid-second round pick. So instead of going through and trying to send, say, just Dallas Goedert straight up for a mid-second, I would try to find a way if there was a sweetener we could add in to get to another late first-round pick next year. That way we can punt on production right now and pick up extra long-term value. I mean, if we were to go through and try to piece something together, let's go ahead and let's pull this up and let's see if we can make something work here. Not exactly sure what we are going to have to try to add to get to another first round pick, considering how far down Goddard is. We also have Hollywood Brown as an asset that obviously we're not wanting to build around for the long term. Maybe we can go with a late second round pick this year as well that we have. It's saying we can get that deal done. I would love to see if that is true. It really does come down to, can we find someone willing to let go of their 2025 first when it comes to February? Because obviously now is a difficult time to buy the picks. But I hope we are able to help you out here with this podcast, my friend. Like I said, we can always try to go through and we can always try to see if we can contend at the beginning of the season. We don't necessarily have to go out there and make a trade to throw in the towel right now. But ultimately, we can at least explore the possibilities of what those prices would look like and if we can pivot to a rebuild relatively easily. But yeah, thank you again so much for being a member of the flock, my friend. If there's anything I can do for you, especially if there's any way I can improve flockfantasy.com for you, don't hesitate to reach out to me and let me know. We have a full dev team hired out. I'm investing everything I have into flockfantasy.com. Going to make it the best site on the planet. So please, if there's anything I can do for you, do not hesitate to reach out to me and let me know. But real quick, before we go over to the next question. So the roster submissions tab on the Discord, if you want to get your team broken down, this is going to be under the Mason's Flock section. Let me expand this out. We have it set up a little weird so we can stream. So yeah, go to the Mason's Flock section of the Discord. If you signed up to flockfantasy.com and you used promo code FLOCK, this should be unlocked for you where you can go through, submit your team here, give me any kind of league settings that you think we should be looking at, any kind of trades that you recently made, really any information that you want me to talk about. Just send it here. I'll be happy to break it down in either a live stream or in a personalized podcast, whichever you prefer. Just let me know whenever you send the team what you would rather have. And of course, if you're not already a member of flockfantasy.com, you can find that link in the description, find it in the comment section, find it in the live chat. Promo code FLOCK will give you 30% off any subscription, plus a free week trial. Yours truly breaking down your Dynasty Fantasy Football team. And also, at the same time, flockfantasy.com is where you can find all the rankings of your favorite creators. You can find our Dynasty trade calculator there where you're able to put in your exact league settings, where I would say it's the most accurate trade calculator that you are going to find on the market. And yeah, the whole 9 yards, premium content. I would definitely be looking at Corey's rookie databases right about now. But let's break down this next team. This is a 12-team Superflex PPR tight end premium. Just finished our startup draft, and this is how it ended up. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's pull this up, ladies and gentlemen. Now, first thing that we always want to do is we always want to look at the league settings, because that is going to be a big thing in how we have to adjust. And this is going to be a league where we start 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, 3 flexes, and a super flex. So unlike the last team where you're only starting 9 offensive players and 2 of which were quarterback's going to make up a super high percentage of the starting lineup output. Here, this is a deeper format. This is a start 11, and this is the format that I prefer to play in. I love playing in start 11 leagues, because here a player like Josh Downs is actually going to make a pretty big difference for you. So yeah, I love going out there and playing in deeper leagues, but we have to make a couple of different adjustments. Unlike the last format, where every deal we make, we're trying to trade 2 pieces for 1. We are trying to trade 3 pieces for 1 and get the best player in return. Here, it's not necessarily that easy. Here, you have to understand that it's going to be much tougher to replace someone like Deontay Johnson if you have 12 teams starting 11 guys every single week. But nonetheless, starting off at quarterback, we are sitting with Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray in the starting lineup. So obviously, super excited about this. Mahomes is my quarterback 1 in Dynasty. I know a lot of people want to make the argument for Josh Allen. I would have Josh Allen in a redraft league as QB1. I'd have Mahomes in Dynasty as QB1. But outside of that, Kyler looks to be a low-end QB1 in Dynasty as well, given a rushing upside. We have Russ, who's probably starting for someone this next year, but obviously want to be too excited. We just need him to go out there, and we just need him to essentially fill in, right? And going over to running back, we are sitting with my Dynasty RB1 and Jahmyr Gibbs for a full PPR format. We have James Conner, who possibly is still starting running back this next season. Going down to the bench, we don't really have anybody. You have A.J. Dillon, who's a free agent. Maybe A.J. Dillon goes and finds himself somewhere. But ultimately, running back depth is not something I'm too concerned about in a full PPR league where we can start 11 guys. The reason being is if we are a little bit light at running back 2, which we may be, depending on what happens with James Conner, ultimately, it's not going to make or break our season. We are going to be able to get by as long as we are strong, particularly at wide receiver and the flex spots. This is where I love to build around in a start 11 league where we can start 6 wide receivers from week to week perspective. I want 6 wide receiver 2s on our team. We have Devonta Smith, Michael Pittman, Deontay Johnson, Tyler Lockett, Elijah Moore, Jacoby Myers. So we have the wide receivers at the top that we're excited about with Smith and Pittman. But beyond that, I mean, we are a little bit questionable when it comes to the depth. And we don't really have anybody down there on the bench either of note, maybe outside of Jonathan Mingo. Going over to tight end, we have Cole Kmet as well. I mean, if you are looking at Kmet here, this is a tight end that we can say, okay, well, yeah, he's young. Yeah, he's been okay, but I don't necessarily see him taking that next step like Trey McBride, right? He's just going to get the job done for us. But ultimately, I would say the issue that we have with this team as it stands is not necessarily, oh, we don't have a running back 3. That I don't really care about that. The issue is when you're projecting out to go into a season where you're starting Elijah Moore and Jacoby Myers in 2 of your starting lineup slots, to understand injuries will happen, to understand that we are going to have to deal with bye weeks, to understand that a couple of these guys probably are going to bust, right? I mean, it's not like, I can sit here and say, oh yeah, I like Michael Pittman, and know for sure that Michael Pittman Jr. is going to be as good as he was this year, next year. It does put us in a compromising position, particularly in this start 11 league. So something that I would actually be looking to do probably with this team in particular is I'd probably be looking to trade back from the 102 and see if we can pick up a couple additional assets where we can actually have some starting names. Now, a big thing that I do want to point out with this team as well is we do not have our 2025 first. So when you don't have your 2025 first, it does put you in a very compromising position in that, one, you can't ever pull the ripcord and you can't ever say, okay, this season didn't work out, I'm going to pivot to a rebuild. That's just not a possibility here if you traded away your 2025 first. And on top of this, you're in a spot where if anything goes wrong during the season, where Patrick Mahomes, say, has a high ankle sprain, say Kyler Murray tears an ACL, and all of a sudden we have a pretty big team need that we didn't necessarily have before, then at that point, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to go ahead and trade for an asset, but we don't have our 2025 first to give up. So all of a sudden, you're either going to be forced into the situation where you're trading away another starter. So you are, taking one wood plank out of the ship to plug a hole and just creating another hole in the ship. And it really doesn't leave us with a lot of flexibility or firepower during the offseason to actually make moves here. So I'm always one to say, keep your 2025 first. It's going to help contending teams during this season have the extra firepower where they can trade whenever something comes up and they need an asset. And at the same time, it always does give us the option where if things go horribly wrong, just say worst case scenario here, Patrick Mahomes high ankle sprain and Kyler Murray torn ACL, where if we add our own 2025 first, we can pivot to a rebuild. Here, that's not even an option. Here, if things go horribly wrong, it's not like, okay, yeah, we'll pivot to a rebuild and get the 101. No, we can't. So what I think I'd probably be looking to do is I'd probably be looking to take the second pick overall, trade back, still stay inside one of the top tiers that we like, still try to stay inside the top 5, 6, 7, and pick up an additional asset, preferably a 2025 first. Like, let's go ahead. Let's pull up the trade calculator here and see if we can find something that works. So let's pull up, say, the 107. The 107 is either going to be Rome or it's going to be Bowers. You're saying this is a tight end premium format where you're getting an additional full point per reception to the tight end position. So obviously taking someone like Bowers here would not be a bad thing. And we are going to be trading away the 102. I mean, if we're looking at this, it is saying right now the 102 is the side that you want. Let me go ahead and see if, actually, I think we accidentally put the league settings that this was an 8-team league. This is a 12-team league. Let's go ahead. Let's change that. Let's see in a 12-team formats how this looks instead. Mid to late first. Saying the 102 is still winning this side. So here's what we're going to do. Let's see. What if it's a shot to be an early to mid 2025 first? They're saying fair trade. So this is what I would look to do. Obviously, that 102 is a phenomenal asset. That 102 is Marvin Harrison Jr. It is Caleb Williams. It is one of those pieces. It's going to be a lot better than who you're getting at pick 7. But particularly in the start 11 league where I think we do need some help, I probably would prefer to pivot over and just get the 2 assets and put ourselves in a position where we have a lot more flexibility going into the future. Now, the last thing you want to do is go and trade the 102 for the 109 in a future first. That'd be horrible. You definitely need a top 7 pick at the minimum if we're going to do that. Preferably a top 5 pick. I'd approach the owners with the 104 and the 105 before we would go to the guys with the 106 and the 107. But that's what we'd be looking at. Now, real quick, again, I do want to thank you for being a member of the flock and supporting the channel. I really hope that we are able to help you out in some way with this podcast. And I do want to remind you, I know I'm a broken drum when we say this. I know you're annoyed, but please, if there's anything I can ever do, if there's any way I can ever improve flockfantasy.com for you, don't hesitate to reach out to me and let me know. I'm investing everything that we have into the site. We have some pretty big updates coming in on the back ends. I want to say tonight or tomorrow morning. So hopefully we can get to whatever you want over the next few weeks. But yeah, thank you again for everything. Really do appreciate you, my friend. And real quick, we have a question coming out from, I believe, Skrill says, Mason, nice to see you, man. Traded Higgins and Kyron for Amon-Ra in the 103 in a 1 quarterback for. I love this deal. I mean, this is a no-brainer. I mean, obviously 103 would be a much better pick if you are looking at a super flex league. But even in a one quarterback format, you're still looking at Rome. You're still looking at Bowers. Let me go ahead and let me pull up what we have with the trade calculator here, my friend. So we're going to turn super flex off, go to 1 QB. We are getting Amon-Ra, who Amon-Ra St. Brown right now in a one quarterback format is 5th overall in rankings, 5th overall. And the 103, which like we said, that's Rome, that's Bowers. And we are trading away T. Higgins and Kyron Williams. Yeah, this is an absolute no-brainer, my friend. I mean, you can even just see as we pull up the rankings here. You have Amon-Ra ranked significantly ahead of T. Higgins in consensus rankings. You have the 103 ranked ahead of Kyron Williams as well. I mean, you can go down to the trade finder, see that someone else traded T. Higgins, a first and a second round pick for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Go ahead and hit this. Not even remotely close. Phenomenal trade. Really happy for you, my friend. Really happy for you. But I think that's all we are going to do for this live stream this morning. We'll be breaking down a ton of teams with personalized podcast tonight. So I'm sorry if I did not get to your team in this live stream. I will more likely not be sending you a DM tonight with a link to a personalized breakdown. Just really want to go take advantage of it being nice outside. But thank you again for everything. Really do appreciate y'all hanging out with me this a fine Sunday morning. As always, if you're not done so already, hit that like button. And if you're not a member of the flock already, don't know what you're waiting for, head over to flockfantasy.com. Code FLOCK will give you 30% off any subscription. It will give you our Dynasty Fantasy Football rankings for pretty much all the favorite people you watch on YouTube. And on top of that, it's going to give you all the premium posts from everybody. It's going to get yours truly to break down your Dynasty Fantasy Football team in a podcast if you use code FLOCK, plus 30% off any subscription and a free week trial. But I think that's all I have for you. Really do appreciate you. Really hope you have a great day, and really hope we get to see you out with the video tomorrow morning.